Hi, I haven't done this ever. How do I sit? What do I do? Hi, I'm Sophie. Welcome to my channel. I never do that. Okay, I'm starting over. This is a different type of video. This is a Q&A. I made a video about creativity. I put it out earlier this week, but I also got a lot of questions that I couldn't answer in that video. So I figured why not make a video where I just outright answer some of those. So the first question was, how do you deal with feeling unmotivated or stuck? What's helped for me, I think, is just starting. That sounds really simple, but it depends on what your craft is. So for me, when I'm drawing, sometimes I'll just scribble or I will like finger paint. One thing that I think is really helpful is having a lot of materials around you. I have a bunch of different papers, I have a bunch of different paints, and just like random things like pipe cleaners and string. And anytime I'm in an art store or a dollar store and I see a texture I really like or I see a color I really like, I will get that material just so I can have it in my studio. The other day I picked up feathers from the art store because I was like, I think I might use these. And so that's one thing, being in an environment where you have a lot of materials around you. One thing I wanted to mention here, which I forgot to, was that what helps me is having some exercises that I can shuffle through, cycle between when I don't have an idea for a drawing. For me, that's practicing drawing hands, feet, the body in general, faces from different angles. Having that in my arsenal of exercises I can do at any point is really helpful. So find what that is for you and your craft. Somebody asked, like, what's the connection between constraints and creativity? Constraints can be really helpful, especially when you're feeling stuck. So for example, one thing I've done in the past is draw around a Polaroid. That way you're not pressed to think of an idea, right? You can use inspiration from the Polaroid, or I have some magazines lying around I might flip through. When I was a teacher, we talked a lot about scaffolding for kids, right? When you give kids an activity or an assignment to do, you have to provide supports for them, and then you can remove those supports. Eventually they'll become independent enough to be able to do it on their own. It's the same in art. When you're feeling stuck or unmotivated, you have to give yourself some scaffolding. Maybe like 30% comes from somewhere else, like a magazine or an image you saw on Instagram or from the string that's in your studio, and then you can give the last 70%. And then eventually that ratio will change and you can come up with ideas on your own. Another thing, this is the last thing I'll say on this question, I find it really helpful to keep a running list on my phone of ideas. Ideas will come to me at random points. Like maybe I'll be watching a TV show and I'm like, oh, I really love the way this shot is set up. I want to do a drawing that's inspired by this. I'm saying that because I just watched My Brilliant Friend and there was a beautiful shot. I took a screenshot of it because I was like, oh, I'd love to do a drawing that's inspired by this. Anyway, write down that idea. They'll come to you at random times. And that way when you sit down to draw, you're not sitting like, oh God, what do I put on this paper? You can go onto your phone and you could just start drawing one of those. I do that for videos too. That's imperative. All right, someone asked, they asked about their starting point. Like that can be the hardest part of an art piece. I think I kind of spoke to that. Doing multimedia work, I think, is really helpful when you're feeling stuck because you can bring in materials from many different places. All right, what's another question? The fear. Ooh, I think often fear around creativity comes from like a fear of not being good enough. And someone else asked about like how to deal with imposter syndrome. I went to this illustration workshop with an artist that I love, Amanda Oleander. There were several moments where one or more girls who were there were like, I'm like stressed about putting a mark on the paper. And Amanda was saying that she used a really simple analogy. She was like, think about the iPhone, right? We have these incredible machines in our pockets now, but there's been so many iterations of the iPhone, and compare like the first iPhone to the iPhone that we have now, there's such a difference. But we would never have the iPhone that we have now if Steve Jobs and the designers at Apple hadn't started with the first generation of iPhone. So that's helpful in getting over the fear, knowing that you don't have to create a masterpiece and that you're like practicing, you're working. I was listening to This American Life once, and Ira Glass was saying like one of the hardest things about creating is that often there's a disparity between your taste level and your skill level, and that what's hardest about creating is that you know what you want your creation to look like and sound like and be like, but your skill level is not there. I think that's something that stops people from creating a lot of the time, because you have this idea in your head and you can't translate it onto paper, and that's an incredibly frustrating feeling. But you close that gap more and more and more every time you actually create something. Just knowing that there's gonna be a time when your taste level and your skill level match up is really helpful for me. I'm definitely not there. I'll go back and look at drawings or videos and I'm shocked. I'm like, I thought that was good? I put that out into the world? That's shocking, but that's comforting. That means that you've grown as an artist and your skill level is developing. And so knowing that if you can push past that fear and actually create something, even if it's not your favorite thing, it will help you get closer to your goal. It will help you close the gap between your taste level and your skill level. I really like that. Yeah, what's another question? One person asked, how do you stop perfecting? What was their actual question? Stop perfecting before starting. Someone else mentioned separating the editor from the creative process. I would say for me, having somebody who can be a second set of eyes on a project I'm working on is extremely helpful. So for me, that's David. And I just lucked out that my partner in life is also very creative and really good at video, has an eye for visual arts as well. And when I'm making a video, I can like string some things together and I don't have to worry about the end product just yet. I'll show it to David, we'll like bounce ideas off of each other, and then I can get into editing. So I would say if you don't have a partner who you can do that with, finding a friend, finding people who do that same type of art as you, maybe you can do that for each other. And it can be like a little bit of a give and take. What was another question? What is your process? What inspires you? Ooh, what is my process? For videos, my process is to look at the note on my phone called video ideas and see if there's anything I can start working on. Often my videos are about something that I'm experiencing in my life or something that I'm thinking a lot about. Maybe I'm thinking about it because I like listened to a podcast, or maybe it's just like I moved to LA and I have a lot of feelings about that big move I did, so let me make a video about that. Once I have the idea, I then sit down to write. It's basically like a journal for me. I just like write out my thoughts. It's very stream of consciousness. At that point, sometimes, not always, I'll show it to David and we'll like start to fine tune it. He'll be like, this is rambly, this is good, but get rid of this. And then I have my voiceover, my script, and then I start to come up with the visuals that I want for the video. Yeah, then I film, I draw, I paint, whatever those visuals call for. But yeah, I feel really inspired by podcasts. I've been listening to The Happiness Lab. I found that really inspiring, particularly for videos. It's not about videos, but it's kind of like positive psychology. So there's an episode about habits, there's an episode about materialism. I'll listen to This American Life because I love storytelling. I also recently watched My Brilliant Friend, which is just like visually stunning. Often I'm inspired by art that I'm taking in, film and TV, podcasts. Instagram is a big one. My conversations with David, with my mom, big time, and then media. I'm also really inspired by my faith. The Baha'i writings are endlessly beautiful and inspiring to me. So yeah, it's kind of all around me. Is that a cheap answer? Am I like cheating by answering I'm inspired by everything? It's true. Ooh, someone asked, what is the relationship between imagination and creativity? Good question. Imagination is an integral part of creativity, but I think often, oh, this is a hard question. I don't think creativity is completely imagination. A lot of creativity comes from your surroundings and outside sources that you're inspired by, like I was just talking about. But when I think about imagination, I think about the things that just like pop into your head. And that happens a lot in creating. I noticed when I was making the last video I put out, I'll have a line from the script and I'll be like stumped. I don't know what visual to put with it. And then it'll just like pop into my head. And I think that's imagination. And I think it comes from like some other higher source. They're completely interwoven for me. I think I answered most of the questions in one way or another. If you have any other questions, let me know. Comment down below. All right, bye. If you made it to the end of that video, Bravo, you deserve a round of applause. It was long. Now you should go ahead and treat yourself by liking the video, commenting on it, subscribing, you know, all those great things, because that's a treat for you, not for me. Psh, I don't need that. Oh, great. Somebody's gardening. Perfect. Okay, it seems to have stopped. So happy to have you here. You're not here. Aww.